Dr. Ruchi Goyal speaking on now, not the subluxated cataract.
Microphthalmic.
Microphthalmos is another big topic where the surgery is difficult. The cornea and eyeball is small, but lens is same big. So managing the microphthalmos cataract surgery is quite a challenge. So Dr. Ruchi Goyal is talking about that.
So, when do you call a patient having a microphthalmic eye? So, the standard definition is that when the axial length is adjusted for ages below 95th percentile. So, for different ages, there is no set axial length that we will call it as microphthalmic. So, as the eyeball grows, we will take the microphthalmic eye would be 2 standard deviation less than the plus minus mean. So now the categorization is important. Why? Because our surgery, our IOL is going to depend on that. So normally microphthalmic eye, it is divided into a complex microphthalmos and simple mean is the nanophthalmic eye, which I think commonly sometimes we operate also and we get to know that it was a nanophthalmic eye later on, because here only the anterior segment and the posterior segment are short, but the lens per se is of normal size. So usually the patient will spend his entire life, and when the lens starts growing, they get to know that something is wrong. So that's the nanophthalmic eye. And of course, you can diagnose it pre-operatively with the you do an ultrasound B scan and you see the sclerochoroidal thickness is more than 1.7 millimeter, the corneal diameter is less, and the lens to eyeball volume, which is the most important part, is about 11 to 32%. Now, many of these patients, of course, would be complex microphthalmos. When we say complex microphthalmos, that means they would have a coexisting coloboma. So there would be some colobomas, or there can be persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous. So a good preoperative examination is important. Now these patients may have microcornea also. So now the problem arises how to proceed with the surgery and what should be the standard intraocular lenses which are available with us. They would not have, if it's a very small eye, you cannot implant those lenses. So you have to get a custom made lenses at times. If what I have observed it, if your the corneal diameter is less than, the white to white diameter is less than, let's say, 9 or 8 millimeter, the 8 millimeter, below 8 millimeter, it is better to get a custom made lenses. Otherwise, improvisations as can be done is that what we do is we cut the IOL optic is left intact and the haptics can be cut by the sides and cauterized so that they don't injure the capsule. But these are just improvisations. The best is, of course, if you can get a custom made IOL for these patients, and we have an Indian company who helps us with this. So why these patients are, again, they may have some systemic congenital malformations for which you need to get them investigated. They of course, your anterior chamber and the posterior chamber are going to be shallow. These patients may develop PAS in the long term. They may present with chronic open angle glaucomas, and the pupils are usually poorly dilating, which is another problem. So let us see how to manage this case. So this is a patient with complicated microphthalmos, and see, I have not worked on making a, I'm not interested in making a frown incision, inducing least astigmatism. My priorities have changed in this patient. I want that without injuring any of the intraocular structures, my nucleus comes out intact and I put the IOL. So here my incision is closer to the limbus and it is a straight incision, so that if I need to enlarge it, I can enlarge it comfortably. So, and the pupil was not dilating, and so I have used iris retraction hooks to dilate the pupil. The rhexis, of course, you have to manage. It needs to be a large rhexis with such a big nucleus, and it sometimes becomes difficult. Now, the internal diameter of your incision has to be about 8 to 9 millimeter. Now, another modification that you see again here is, see, this is the area where your zonules are going to be weak, because this is the area of coloboma. So you expect the zonules are going to be weak. So this AC maintainer, instead of putting here, which I usually do, I have shifted it to another side where my zonules are intact. So these are a straight incision closer to the limbus need be, because what happens is the nucleus in these patients is very large. So, and your anterior segment is small. So if you make a very small, incision, what happens is there is a fish mouthing and this nucleus will not come out. So what you do is you make it closer so that the whole, it's something like an extra capsular done in a, in a triplanar way. So the mouth opens and the nucleus is delivered. So after doing that, so the rhexis was large and this nucleus came out. Now again, if you see carefully, you can see this capsule is folded. That means the zonules on this side are very weak. So after doing a cortical aspiration, I need to stretch my bag. So what I've done is I've injected viscoelastic, and I'll now, after putting, because again, if you have weak zonules and there is a lot of turbulence, you don't want the remaining zonules also to break. So what I've done is I've put a suture, I've used a bimanual to remove this cortex from the cortex. 12 o'clock cortex has been removed with this by this improvisation, and now I will put my CTR. If you have an injectable CTR, it is better, it goes right into the bag. If you don't have, then you don't have an injector, you can simply dial the CTR in. Actually, you can create an injector in your OT itself. So instead of using a PMMA lens, which while dialing I would have injured the zonules, I've used a foldable lens which is now injected directly into the bag. So two things I have managed by these small modifications. Now this is a coloboma which is present inferiorly. So what I'll do is I'm doing a McAllen suture to repair this coloboma. Remember that these patients may need a laser barrage. So if you have not done a laser barrage, please don't do this pupilloplasty right now, because this patient may require a complete retinal examination and a laser barrage which needs to be done. So this patient, already a laser barrage had been done earlier, so I have gone and done a pupilloplasty on the table. So now you can see this is a patient where the zonules were broken. Now I'll show you another patient now where everything went wrong. So I'll show you how, after my own mistakes, I learned how to do a better management of these patients. This is another patient where again you see the corneal diameter 9.5, the axial length was 16 millimeter, and this is the superior incision that I made, and I did a very nice tunnel dissection, a frown incision, 2 millimeter from the limbus. So this is one very well dissected tunnel. There was nothing wrong with the tunnel. The chamber was extremely shallow. So again, remind you either make use of high molecular viscoelastic. Then you need to inject again and again. So after this, this is where my first mistake was. I put my ACM right where the zonules were weak. So by the fluid which is coming from the AC maintainer, you are going to further break the remaining zonules. Then I did not use any device to enlarge I was overconfident. I thought I am able to do SICS in any condition, so I decided to go ahead and do a rhexis. But I cannot create a very large rhexis in these circumstances. Shallow chamber, non-dilating pupil, my rhexis cannot be more than 6 millimeter in this case. So the nucleus, remember, the nucleus is going to be very large here. So you need a larger rhexis for the nucleus to come out. So again, this rhexis has been complete. And then after this, I completed my tunnel. It is a well-made tunnel. There was nothing wrong with the tunnel, but the width of the tunnel was too big. So now the nucleus. So you see this large size nucleus. This nucleus is refusing to budge out. I have injected, usually in one this fluid injection, my nucleus pops out into the chamber. Another struggle. Maybe at this stage also I could simply have enlarged my section and convert it. But overconfidence can sometimes kill you. Now again I have started trying to deliver the nucleus. It's not coming out. There's no space for the nucleus to enter the chamber. The chamber is shallow. The tunnel is not allowing the chamber, the mouth to open up completely. And ultimately, see what has started happening. Multiple maneuvers, there is an aerodedialysis now. So that's how you create a mess. Now I've removed my NTA chamber maintainer. I've used a viscoelastic, managed to finally somehow bring this nucleus out with all the iris into the wound. Even at this stage, again, I would say please enlarge the incision. There was no need to continue with SICS. Simply give one side extension and the nucleus would have come out. And we could have, saved all this trouble. So the nucleus is still such a big nucleus, it's still not coming out. So there is no role of this kind of a surgery in these kind of eyes. Remember that you have to have a larger incision. So please don't go for frown beautiful incisions. So this was a very large nucleus, and of course, besides the PC which was left intact, everything has been injured. So anyway, this patient we had not planned an IOL. So to conclude, you must rule out any malformations in heart, kidney, CNS. You must do a wide to wide diameter to see the IOL power, the axial length, the B scans for any RD, pre-existing RD, and of course your IOL power calculation has to be done with Hofer cube formula. You should not use your routine SRK upon T formula, and of course the other points I've already emphasized. Thank you so much.
Great presentation on a topic which is difficult, and Professor Ruchi has shown it all that microphthalmos patients, the lens is big, eye is small, so be careful, and in time decision sometime to extend the incision will do a good to you.